feel like Gordon Bombay would have taken his career to even further heights.
Everything's flashy, everything's cocaine, everything's
Fun.
Open wide for some soccer!
I don't care what your personal thoughts are at home. I care that you hate the Cowboys.
Call this college rule!
Welcome, everybody, to the Sports Experience Podcast. I'm Chris. This is Dom. We're just a couple of comics who love talking sports. We just got out of a block, one episode on a racist, and then we're back into a block. And guess what? That last guy, Ty Cobb, would not like the guys we're talking about in this block. We're talking about guys in the Negro Leagues that never really made it to the MLB, but still had unbelievable baseball careers. And who we starting with?
So we're starting with now the new home run champion.
That's right.
After MLB integrated all those statistics. We have Josh Gibson, arguably one of the best catchers of all time.
Yes.
And let's get into it, Chris. Josh Gibson, born December 21st, 1911 in Buena Vista, Georgia, to parents Mark and Nancy. Had a sister and a younger brother, Jerry, who was also a Negro Leagues player.
Yep, he also played baseball in those times, if you know what I mean.
Men of their time didn't allow these men of their time to participate.
Exactly.
A lot of the Ty Cobb attitude out there, if you know what I'm talking about. In 1923, though, at age 12, his family moves up to Pittsburgh. His dad worked for the Carnegie, Illinois Steel Company. And growing up, Josh wanted to be an electrician.
Yeah, he was. He went to vocational schools for that early on, like when he was like 11 or something. So like that was like his plan for his future. And then kind of plans derailed when he hit around 15, 16.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, he ends up dropping out of school. And why did he do that, Chris? Baseball. Yeah, I mean, he can't make it to the majors because of a gentleman's agreement, but there's all sorts of opportunity for baseball in this great nation.
Yeah, and he ends up playing in one of these like kind of company teams that, you know, kind of travel and play, but he was one of the youngsters. I think he was an elevator operator.
Yeah, he was an elevator operator for Gimbals, which was like the department store. And all it made me think of was that Simpsons where Marge is like, well, Macy's and Gimbals existed at the same time. No, Gimbals is gone, Marge. You're Gimbals.
Oh, that's so good.
Agnes, Lamb of God, say it. But no, like a department store elevator operator, which is like, he's got bigger dreams of playing pro baseball. And in 1928, he joins the Pittsburgh Crawfords there, still a semi-pro team controlled by Gus Greenlee. And then in the summer of 1930, as a tryout with the Memphis Red Sox, but their manager, Candy Jim Taylor, said he would never be a catcher. I don't know if you read that.
I thought so he tried out with him, and then he literally says, that guy will never play what would be professional baseball for these guys. He was so down on him. He actually tried out as a third baseman. I don't know if you saw that.
I did, yeah.
And then they tried to switch him to catcher, and he that was his reaction. He was like, yeah, that guy will never be a catcher.
Real eye for talent there, Candy Jim.
But he was an unbelievable hitter throughout his career, but like even that young, but he just like wasn't a third baseman and hadn't had the practice catching.
No, not at all. But I mean, and that's where you put your biggest player, because he was about like 6'2", couple bills. So I mean, for that men of their time, that's very large.
Yes, he was very much the biggest player, which is why he was such a better power hitter than everybody.
Mm-hmm. Unfortunately, in 1930, some tragedy strikes. I don't know if you read about that. His wife Helen died giving birth to twins.
Yep.
Her parents ended up raising the kids while he went basically to pursue a professional career in baseball, because in 1930, you kind of, at 19, you could see how good he was, essentially.
Well, I heard that before his wife died, he was kind of like a really funny and like personable kind of guy. And then people said after his wife died, he was very closed off and his only focus was really on baseball. And he wasn't a great father to his kids because he just was never there. Because especially in the Negro Leagues at this time, they pretty much play every single day of the year until he goes to like Puerto Rico and stuff like that. But like it is just traveling the whole time, you know?
Oh, no. You're just barnstorming across the country, like looking for games.
Yes.
Almost essentially playing structured pickup games.
Yes. That's straight up what it is, like Sandlot pickup games.
I mean, there was a dog that was over one of the fences, and Josh had to get the ball back because it was their only ball. It was signed by the Sultan of SWAT, someone whose record he allegedly broke. So pretty impressive.
Yep.
Pretty impressive. In 1930, he ends up hitting .338, and they play in a postseason series against the New York Lincoln Giants. I love these Negro League team names where they're almost like Major League teams, but they throw something else in.
Yes, they 100% do that all the time. They're just like, the Philadelphia ABs. I don't know if you guys know. Oh, yeah, that's really good. Allegedly,
in Game 2 of that series in the postseason against the Lincoln Giants, he hit a 457-plus foot dinger over Forbes Field. Mm-hmm. And that was like a cavernous... It's where the Pirates used to play before they moved into Three Rivers in the 70s, which... all those old baseball parks were just like oddly shaped.
Yeah. Yes, but it was interesting because I read about that and people were like, nobody had ever seen that. Nobody had even like talked about somebody hitting it out of the park. You know what I mean? Like that's how far his home run was and what a great power hitter he was right away. Like this is like he's 19, 20, something like that, and you're just like, God, he's so good.
Playing against grown men, too,
yep.
Which is even more ridiculous. By 1932, he's a stud in the Negro Leagues for the Crawfords. Just arguably the league's best non-pitcher.
Yep.
He tied Oscar Charleston that year, who we'll probably do an episode on for dingers in Negro League play. In 1933, he hit .467.
I saw that, and just... it's such a ridiculous stat because back then they weren't keeping so many stats, all that kind of stuff.
And this
people
was
were
for
like
all his games, not just the Negro League games.
So yes, for every game that they went out and played because they were playing, 7 games a week, just to hit over 4. It's insane. Every other time he came up to the plate, he was hitting a ball, and he hit something like 60 home runs.
This is like when Barry Bonds started allegedly taking performance enhancing drugs.
We actually don't think he did that in this podcast. You know?
I guess that's true.
I
mean, head growth like that is totally normal after you hit 40.
Dude, it's so normal.
Like those forearms, I mean, that surgery can be done over the weekend. God. But he led the Negro Leagues that year in dingers, RBIs, OPS, and he had speed on the base pass. He led in triples.
And this is when he becomes an actual good catcher because they let him play catcher a ton. So he's actually, that's what people said was like, he started off not great because that wasn't necessarily his position, but like at the time where he starts to become this star, people are like, yeah, he's probably one of the best catchers in the league.
Coach, I had 6 pass balls today. How many RBIs did you have? 8. All right. We're good.
Those are the numbers that work out.
1934, he leads the league again in homers, doubles, runs, RBIs, and hit .317. Are you kidding me?
Yep.
Going over, I wish they had better statisticians.
I know.
Because when you read this, you're just like, this is Black Paul Bunyan.
Yes.
With just knocking dingers, just living it up.
Well, I also wonder what the average baseball fan kind of thought of that, because you look at his stats and you're just kind of like, how is this guy not in the majors? Because it was an unwritten rule. So they just kind of assumed that all these white guys were better and that there wasn't some kind of back dealing kind of thing between owners being like, we can't sign black guys. That's crazy.
I can just imagine the owners walking into those clubhouses like Cartman to see you in the athletic department. I'd like your Gimbals athletes, please.
Well, sir.
If anyone were listening to our conversations, such as Commissioner Kennesaw Mountain Landis, they might not agree. How does he feel about putting on makeup? God. We've advanced so much farther in the last 100 years. Thank God.
I know, it's ridiculous. Because, I mean, when you see somebody putting up these numbers, you have to be, as like a baseball fan, you have to be like, why can't we just pick him up? What's going on here?
I think I brought this up in our Black Sox episode. John McGraw, the Giants manager from like the 1900s and teens.
Yep.
He would scout these players. He would scout basically up until he died, like in the 30s. He would scout these players and just be like, "I'm waiting on it, just waiting waiting to sign these guys."
Because he was kind of smart with it, not kind of like the way the world was going to change, but to be like, once this floodgate opens, I'm going to know who to pick up.
Yeah.
And it's going to be Josh Gibson, Satchel. You know what I mean?
Exactly.
Like he actually scouted these guys.
No, I got to do your due diligence somehow. 1935, he hits 369 and leads the Negro Leagues in home runs and RBIs. They make to the postseason that year. They play the New York Cubans. Why don't we just call them the Cubans? I don't know. But in 7 games, he hits 407 with a dinger and 5 ribbies. God.
It's so ridiculous.
Such a great player. 36, he wins a batting title. 389, leads in homers, RBIs, and walks. He won the Triple Crown.
He won the Triple Crown, yeah.
I mean, take that, Miguel Cabrera and Carl Yastrzemski and all the other guys. Few guys, Jimmy Fox, Babe Ruth. There's
some
Joe Medwick. There's guys.
There's guys.
He was an all-star every year he played for the Crawfords.
For the Crawfords.
Just a steel town boy on a Saturday night looking for the dingers of his life.
And this is when he goes to the Grays, right?
This is before. This is when he goes overseas.
Oh, this is when. Okay, nice.
Mm-hmm. So in 1937, he played in 3 leagues in 3 different countries.
Yep.
He hits 344 in Cuban winter ball. Then he plays for the Grays in 37. So yes, that's when he goes there. You're right. And then this is when that's when Greenlee started selling off all his stars.
Oh yes,
to make money. So that's
why he ended up getting sold to the Grays. And then is this when he goes to Puerto Rico?
He plays in the Dominican League.
The Dominican League. Okay.
Just 453.
I was gonna say he has a batting average in one of those leagues that I was like, what the hell is going on with this?
Ty Cobb's just like, But he led in RBIs and triples in the Dominican, which is hilarious.
Yep.
38, he goes to Cuba and plays for the Havana Reds, which I guess communism really didn't exist in Cuba, but you could just call them the commies.
No, yeah, Cuba was kind of like one of those American states, like Minnesota or Canada.
So you're telling me Batista's not in charge anymore? This looks like the new Packard I've been hearing so much about. It's carne de burro. Hits 342 there, slugged 607. Then in Homestead, he hits 37. So, like, he's doing the best of it, probably in the best league that he's playing in.
Yes.
And all the event. And you got to think, 1938, if he's playing for the Pirates, you still got the Wainers. I mean, oh, my God.
It would be ridiculous.
Unbelievable.
Well, I saw somebody say that if we saw him play for the Pirates, they would have been an even bigger, dynasty team where they would have like won multiple,
I think we've all had enough of seeing the Cubs go to World Series and not win them. Maybe he could have partied with Hack Wilson if he played for the Cubs.
Oh, that would have been awesome.
Sweet.
Oh, my God.
We'll get into that later.
Yeah, he does have a little wild side.
A little bit of a wild side. Led the league in Negro Leagues and dingers that year and RBIs. And then after that season, he's in Cuba again, and his team, Santa Clara, wins the title. He was setting records in these overseas leagues that weren't broken until like the 70s and 80s.
Yes.
Which is holy. Why isn't he on a major league team?
Well, I was trying to look up how much money he was making because they said he had like a pretty decent life, you know what I mean? But I was wondering like how much money did he make going to Cuba? How much, you know what I mean? Like that kind of stuff because it is off season for his like, he didn't have an off season.
No.
How about that?
He just played lots of baseball.
Yeah.
And I'm going to assume with some of these other guys we talk about, like they're doing this strictly to supplement their income.
Yeah.
Like
that was my thought. Is he doing this out of love of play, or he's like, I can't take a summer off? That's crazy. I can't take the winter off.
I think it's column A, column B, because to even do what he's doing, you have to love the game.
Yes.
I mean, you can do it for financial reasons, but like after about a year of that, you're probably like, I fucking had it.
Oh, but can you imagine being a star in Cuba? You know what I mean? In that time, God.
Hopefully the Dominicans aren't rolling the cigars,
No,
Jerry.
because that's just bad.
They rolled the crepes too tight. 39, he's an all-star for Homestead. Again, hit .402, led the league in dingers, and they went to the playoffs, and they beat the Philadelphia Stars, but they lost the championship to the Baltimore Elite Giants.
Ooh, nice.
Not just the Baltimore Giants.
The Elite Giants. Well, I think he's the only guy, if we're counting it for his stats against MLB guys, I think he's the only guy to go over 400 multiple times.
Oh, yeah. I mean, these are like Ty Cobb numbers with Babe Ruth power numbers.
Yes.
Because we talked about how jealous he was because he hit dingers, but he's like, you're not hitting 402. It's like, well, Josh Gibson certainly is.
He literally was those two players combined.
Very true. He went and played in the Puerto Rican Winter League that year.
Okay.
Just let him in dingers.
Just, you know.
1940, though, he spends most of that year overseas in the Mexican and Puerto Rican leagues. Much long before Jake Taylor modeled his game after him in the Mexican League.
I thought you were going to say some Eastbound and Down.
Well, that, too. I mean, I transcend race home, bro.
That's true.
God.
At least you could say you're from the fucking Yankees. That's one of my favorite lines. My knees are killing me.
I'm hungover.
At least you could say you're from the Yankees. I don't know, man. I got a guy on the other line for some white walls. Let me get back to you.
This is your chance to manage in the major leagues. So he had 480 in the Puerto Rican Winter League. The guy behind him hit only 409.
Jesus. That's so wild.
In the Mexican League in 41, he hit 374, scored 100 runs, smashed 33 dingers with 124 RBIs in 94 games. What the hell?
I know. And I get that pitching isn't up to the par of like even probably like MLB, but he's still it's proven in every single place that he plays that he could play better than anybody in that era.
And he's the best player everywhere that he goes.
Everywhere.
Like, just never got a shot.
Nope.
He was offered $6,000 to stay with Veracruz because their owner really wanted to keep, great black talent.
Yeah.
MLB was just not employing.
Yeah.
But the Homestead owner, whose name was Posey, like our old boy from the Colts episode, Buzz Nutter. I mean,
Buzz Nutter and Posey. I'll tell you what.
I'm hoping it's Cumberland and not based on other stuff.
Oh, it's based on other stuff.
Tom Brady's sports drink, as discussed by South Park. He was paid $10,000 to stay and play with Homestead, though, in 1942.
Yeah.
And he's only 31 years old. I don't know how many games he's logged at this point, though. Like, because we're not even counting the barnstorming across America, the glorified pickup games, essentially.
Exactly.
Like the organized pickup games. An all-star again in 42. They end up getting swept by Kansas City in the championships. I think Satchel Paige was on the staff.
Yeah.
He hit less than 100 in that city.
I know, which is so weird.
In 1943, he's an all-star, but now his health is starting to take a turn.
So,
and yeah.
I was going to say, let's get into maybe he had some partying going on.
Some partying?
So I've heard this from, a couple of people talking about it. They were like, he always was drinking, but never seemed drunk. And you're like,
no,
dude, that's a Wade Boggs kind of guy. You know what I mean?
What you're saying is if he was on the Pirates instead of the Crawfords, him and the Wainers would have closed down every single bar they went into.
Yes.
Oh, jeez.
Because that's what they pretty much said was he was a raging alcoholic, except for people didn't know it because he just never he didn't have those like blow ups of being like drunk and in public and that kind of stuff.
Like you never had the Hack Wilson trying to escape out of a speakeasy situation. It was just he did all of this in silence, probably to cope with the massive depression of probably being a black person in the 1930s and 40s, but also, your wife dying and not seeing your kids.
Yep.
Having to go play in the Dominican and fucking Puerto Rico so they can have shoes.
Yes.
Like, come on. 43, he spends time in a D.C. sanitarium for depression and alcoholism. He had a lot of nervous breakdowns. This is when we start seeing those come into play.
And he started to get severe headaches.
Mm-hmm.
So, like, he is getting to this point, and we weren't there.
No.
But there was also speculation that he had a pretty raging heroin addiction.
Oh, shoot.
So
I mean, if you're chasing the dragon
Yep.
and an all-star,
Yep.
I mean, hit 466, led the league in runs, hits, doubles, dingers, and RBI. That's like a quintuple crown right there. For one guy.
One guy who is a raging alcoholic and possibly a heroin addict. And I was thinking of that too, where he was like, but he doesn't turn it off.
No.
And you can see that by the batting average, where he shows up every single day and he just rips fucking dingers.
What
know?
What do I say in that one bit where I'm like, the worst thing you can be is a functional alcoholic? It's the worst thing because you're kicking ass and everyone just can't seem to catch you, and then you're just like chasing the dragon like Randy Marsh playing Heroin Hero.
God, what a great game that was.
Dad, you never catch the dragon. No! So he had 10 home runs because he's in D.C. now. The Grays have moved to Washington.
Yes.
He had 10 home runs at Griffith Stadium, which was more than any Senators player on the roster of the big club. Like, come the fuck on. Why aren't you signing him? And I think that probably led into his depression.
I was just going to say that.
Like, because he's thinking, like, it's now or never for the prime of my career. I'm like 32, and I'm not even sniffing the MLB.
And to be honest, I bet he could look at it and be like, not only could I play in that league, I would be a star. So that must be such a just really disheartening to your own psyche, where you're just kind of like, what am I supposed to do with this? Like, this is as far as I can go.
You can't just be Dennis Reynolds in a dress in front of a mirror saying, I'm going to make it work. When you peak, you're going to peak all over our nation's capital.
Yep. God damn right.
They play in the World Series against the Birmingham Black Barons. They're just the Barons now. That's the, if you didn't know, the team Michael Jordan played for before he played the Monstars and rediscovered his love for basketball.
Yep, with Newman. We all remember that.
Larry's not white. Larry's clear. God bless you, Bill Murray. They won in 7 games against the Barons that year. In 44, they win the pennant again, and he's an all-star. Just a typical season, hitting just under 370, leading the league in home runs, triples, beating the Barons again in the World Series. He hit a home run in the World Series. Well, I guess the Negro League World Series, but
still there. Yeah,
it still counts now.
Yep,
it still counts.
Yep.
And then in 45, more of the same, winning the pennant, leading the league in homers, and basically, even though they almost three-peat, I believe they lost to the Cleveland Buckeyes, which is, I guess, not the Indians. I guess that's better.
That's all right. Yeah.
That's all right. But now his health is really starting to collapse.
I was going to say, this is because he was trying to play baseball through having these horrible headaches, through depression. And this season is when it's kind of like obvious to everybody that like he can't keep it together.
Mm-hmm. So 46 is his last season.
Mm-hmm.
He hits 397, has 17 dingers and 12 doubles, which led the league. But they're playing when they're playing these Negro League games. They're playing them at big league ballparks. They're not playing them, just out in a field or out in a sandlot, because the league at this point is at least organized enough to be like, okay, well, they're on a road trip. We can jump in.
Yes.
Like I had read that he hit homers he hit homers in Yankee Stadium, the Polo Grounds, Sportsman's Park, Shibe Park, which is in Philadelphia. Just like, Why wasn't he doing this in the 20s for the Pirates or somebody else?
I heard this story. It was earlier in his career, and he hit this ball that went up so high and so far, nobody saw it land. And then the next day, they were playing the same team in the same ballpark.
Yeah.
And they said a ball just like magically fell from the sky, and the outfielder caught it, and the ump looked at him and he goes, "You're out." In the game yesterday. That was from yesterday. You guys remember.
Oh, God.
But that was one of those like baseball myths where you're like, no. He hits it further than any other player that hits it in this era.
Oh, for sure. And as I had stated before, as far as the catcher's the most physically taxing position on the diamond.
Yeah.
Of any of them. And by 46, he's, 35 years old. He can barely squat behind the plate. Mm-hmm. So everything is deteriorating, and you're thinking, well, eventually he'll get the help that he needs, but not so much in 1947.
He has a brain aneurysm? What was it?
He had a stroke.
He had a stroke, okay.
January 20th, 1947, and he died in Pittsburgh.
So there's a couple of things that I heard about this. In this lead up to him having a stroke, it was becoming public that Jackie Robinson was going to be the first black baseball player.
Yep.
He was extremely hurt by this, and I saw one guy said it just broke his heart, and if you thought he was depressed before this, that's when like you just like couldn't talk him out of depression.
And that's really the saddest part, is that he knew even if he got a shot, he's past the window.
Yes, he passed the window. It was literally the year that he's like retiring.
3 months before.
Yep.
3 months before Jackie Robinson made his debut, he ended up dying of a stroke, which is just like, oh, God.
Yeah, it's brutal.
But how depressing must that have been for not only him, other guys will probably talk about as well, just being like, well, fuck, man. Born 20 years too late.
Yeah.
Or 20 years too early.
Too early, yeah, because he was definitely thought of as the best player, not pitcher, obviously, because that's a different sport, if you know what I mean. But he's definitely was thought of the best player in Negro Leagues for like a decade. So it wasn't like he had these like short little stints. He was like, that's our best player. And then finally they were like, you know what? We're going to let black people play in the MLB. And then he's like, I'm dead.
Yeah, like he's just looking down from heaven like, fuck you.
It's so brutal. It's kind of just like he definitely had one of those sad careers that you were like, God, he just deserved more.
Yeah, he deserved more. And, you think about it, everyone talks about Jackie Robinson or to a lesser extent Larry Doby for integrating the AL. And it's just like, look what. If you had let these players play, like say the gentleman's agreement doesn't exist, I firmly believe baseball would still be the most popular sport in America.
Oh, yeah.
Because you're looking at like a 40-year window of guys that would have been absolute studs. Mm-hmm. And football, what is that?
Yeah. No, seriously. Did you hear the thing that Larry Doby said about him?
No.
Okay, so obviously when he would hit a ball, it just sounded different than everybody else. And he was like, Larry Doby was in baseball for 100 years.
Pretty much.
And he was like, I only heard that sound from 3 guys, which is Josh Gibson, Babe Ruth, and do you know who the last one was?
No,
Bo Jackson.
That actually makes a hell of a lot of sense. Bo Jackson was just a mutant of a person. Like, I mean, Bo knows how to hit the shit out of a baseball and also strike out a lot.
It was interesting where you think of that, where you're like, yeah, those are 3 guys I would think have like a different sound to their bat when they're hitting it. It just reverberated throughout the stadium.
Like, it's surprised they don't tear the cover off the ball with just like the different kind of sound.
I ain't never seen nobody knock the guts out of a ball before. This is an omen.
This is a bad omen. Yep. When Benny pickled the beast. And then they all went off. No, I'm not going to do that. So you'll have to watch me do stand-up to hear that one.
Yep.
So allegedly, from the counting stats that they've gathered and with Major League Baseball integrating Negro League stats into the fold, he had over 800 home runs.
And I'll tell you what is funny for his statue I think it's at Cooperstown, where they were like approximately over 800.
Yeah.
Like they just don't know the exact number. They don't know his exact number of batting average. They were like, it's anywhere from like 360 to 390. Like it's just they weren't keeping the stats that we get, even in MLB, stats. So it was sad
Very
to think
sad.
that we don't know exactly how much this guy destroyed.
Monty Irvin, who played for the Giants, he played in the Negro Leagues and then later played for the New York Giants. He said, Josh Gibson had an eye like Ted Williams and the power of Babe Ruth. He hit to all fields.
Yep.
And he never got to play Major League Baseball.
I know, it's brutal.
How disgusting is that? I did want to bring up just some statistical stuff on him as far as like what's been actually recorded. He was a 9-time Negro League All-Star, won 2 Triple Crowns, led the league in hitting 3 times, slugging an OPS 9 times.
God, he was so good.
Oh my! And he's doing it from behind the dish.
Yeah.
Thankfully, as you had brought up before, in 1972, when the National Baseball Hall of Fame started inducting Negro Leagues players, I believe he was in the first class.
Yes.
Which, long overdue. Even if you couldn't have been appreciated in Major League stadiums against Major League competition, the fact that you dominated so hardcore is pretty remarkable, in my opinion. And just a damn shame we never got to see him, dude.
All right. Josh Gibson.